Hola, soy Guilherme Ribeiro y estos son los pasos del camino. Welcome Steve Walther to Pasos del Camino, a project about the Camino de Santiago to the Camino de Santiago. It's amazing and it's a pleasure for me to have you here as my invited person, pilgrim invited, and I thank you so much for this. It's amazing. It's just amazing. A man for me though. I know.
It's the pleasure's all mine. I'm just thankful that you care so much to reach out to me, of all people, to visit with you about the Camino.
So let's start, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how you discovered the Camino? How did you find about it?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. In 1992, I finished college and I had a job I didn't particularly like, and I had a friend that moved to Spain, and he convinced me to come out and visit, and I did, and I ended up living in Spain off and on for 4 to 6 years.
Oh.
And in 1993, one of my roommates in Granada, living in Granada, was from his family was from Galicia. So we went up on a trip with him, and we went to Santiago while we were there. And we were out on the plaza there in front of the cathedral, and I said, "What are all these people here? What is it?" Back then there weren't nearly as many as now, but there were all of these backpackers, and they were coming in, and he said, "They're pilgrims." And I said, "Pilgrims of what?" And he said, of the Camino de Santiago, and I didn't know anything about it. And I said, "Someday I have to come back." And then fast forward a few years later, I actually married a Spanish lady from Jerez in southern Spain, and her brother moved up to the area around Santiago, and we went back up to visit him. And again, we went back, and there was all of this life in Santiago, and I said, "This is incredible. I have to learn more about it." And I ended up going back one more time with my parents. They came to visit for my sister-in-law's wedding, and we went to Santiago again, and I said, "I'm going to do it." And then as time went on, we got married, we had kids, I had a job, and one day I just said, I set myself a date that I'm going to do it by this date. And so in 3 years ago, 2017, I did my first Camino by myself. And I just did because it was the first one. I didn't have the time to do the whole French way or the whole Portuguese. So yeah. I walked from Saria to Finisterre by myself, and it was like we were talking before. It was just it created a passion for it, and ever since I've thought of nothing else other than getting back and walking. The next year I went back with my daughter, who she graduated from high school on June 2nd. And on June 5th, we were in Oviedo walking the Primitivo, just her and I. And then I was supposed to go back this year and do the Portuguese, but obviously with the virus, it didn't happen. So that's kind of how I was introduced. It was a slow 25 year period to get to where I was actually walking, but I got there, and again, I can think of nothing else at all the time.
This wasn't planned, but I have like a challenge for you, okay?
Okay.
I will put some song playing, and you don't have to also, like I said, you don't have to answer what song it is. You just have to associate this song with the Camino or something about the Camino, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a moment. I guess you like it. Okay. It's playing. Okay.
So what it so it so for pilgrims that have walked before, you get these groups of people that become part of your Camino family, right? And you're walking by, and people from all over the world, all different ages, all different shapes, all different sizes, all different backgrounds, but all of them have a common goal, and that's to keep walking this way. And that song, kind of the way it starts off with one like that, just reminds me of, you see these groups of people and being part of them as well, just that movement going through and just kind of going through like this. And when you're sitting down at a cafe with your Camino family, you see another one go by, and it's kind of almost a reflection of the exact same people you're with, but it's them and you know,
You have yours.
we're the same but different, but the next group comes by and it's kind of that same, that the way that song played kind of reminded me of that rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yes, I actually, I wasn't going for expecting that answer, but actually that makes sense. This song, it's one of the main songs of a movie called Away by Martin Sheen.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know the song. Yeah.
But it's one of the main themes of that movie. But you know the movie.
Yeah.
And this one is one of the songs, and the other two most known. This is one of the most known. The other two are from a compositor, a songwriter, Spanish. But this one from Alanis Morissette, and the other they have Lost from Coldplay. They are the most known of the themes of the movie. But following, people walk for different reasons, all kind of reasons, but they are like you said, the Camino family. Did any pilgrim that you met on the Camino and stick out to your mind?
Oh, so many of them, and the great thing about it is you come back with their stories as your stories, and you learn about all these different people. I'll tell you, one of the most amazing thing happens on my first trip was I got to Finisterre, and I was out. If you've been out there, you walk into the town, and then it's another 2 or 3 kilometers out to the punto, up to the end. And it was kind of a drizzly, rainy day a little bit, and I walked out there, and there's an emotional weight that's on you when you get there, because you just finished and it's as far as you can go, and you're reflecting back on everything. And I was standing there looking out, and there was another two couples, German folks, that said, hey, would you take our picture? And I said, sure, only if you take my picture afterwards. So we're taking each other's pictures there. And then there was a Dutch man that said, would you take my picture? And I said, sure. So, there's that long tower out at the end, that antenna. So we were at that antenna on the rock, and he said, I'm going to climb up on that antenna and tie this small backpack and these boots up there. And I said, well, all right. I said, what's the story? And he said, I just finished. And I said, well, we all just finished. This is the end. You can't go any further, And he said, well, this was in October. And he said, I started in June in Amsterdam. And he walked all the way from Amsterdam to Finisterre. And here we are at the culmination of his trip, of his pilgrimage. And I took his picture, and he came down. I said, oh my gosh. I said, that's amazing. Gave him a big hug. And we're just standing on the rock, looking out at the ocean. And I said, boy, you must have some amazing stories and experiences. I said, what could you tell me that you've learned? And he paused, and his name was Peter. And Peter said, I left Amsterdam with a lot of questions. I now have answers, and I'm going to go home and make everybody around me better people. And I'm a better man. I'm going to help other people become better people. And I was just like, that's the Camino right there, right?
Right, definitely.
I'm going to go home and make other people better people as well. I'm now a better man. I'm going to help them become better people. And I just thought that was one of the most magical things ever. And Peter and I visited for a while. We've exchanged emails since then. But it was that kind of instilled everything about the Camino, about the looking for significance, for looking for a purpose. And really that's what it is. You're there to learn more about yourself, which helps you be a better person.
Definitely. So, what do you know? While walking, we share so many things. We share so many moments. So good moments, other not so good. There are many moments, many things that stick out to our head. Many moments that you don't live while on your normal life, while being working and go home and go working. So what was your favorite moments of the Camino?
I don't think I can say there was one favorite moment. I think there's a favorite feeling. And for me, I just think about the Camino, and I think about, like you said, the good and the bad and everything. It's all together. And when I think of it, I'm overcome with just this sense of being a part of something, but being a part of good. Because I think it's a place where everybody, you leave all the other stuff behind. And before we started the call, you and I were talking a little bit about what's going on politically in the world right now, and that's a place where you can disconnect from all of the other stuff that really isn't that important.
Yeah.
And you can focus in on what is important. And I think the Camino creates passion. It creates a passion for life. It reminds you what it is that we're here to do. And it's also a way, in going there and being not tuning into all of the noise from the outside world, it's you have to disconnect to reconnect. Does that make sense?
All of it.
Yeah, and I also think we meet people on the Camino that are there for different reasons. Some are there for religious reasons. It is, after all, a religious pilgrimage. But others are there for health, maybe. Maybe some are there because they've lost somebody in their life, or they want to make a change in their life. And I think with that, realizing that change is okay, and it gives you the courage to start over. The future's not written, and the Camino allows you a place to refocus on yourself, but also connect with the people in your life.
Before you told about the story of Peter, right? And
yeah.
A few years ago, I don't know, like 10 years ago, or one of the main, I don't know, the main ritual that people had done while walking through Santiago or through Finisterre was to left behind his or her shoes, or to incinerate them. It was like left behind the shoes, or left or put fire on them, or whatever. It's like a sign to on your feet, on your shoes, you carry all of your problems. And after walking the Camino, after thinking about everything, after get some answers for your problems, you left your shoes there, you left your problems there, and you are a new person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something like that.
It is. You're right. Yeah. I met this guy on the part of the Camino on the Santiago de Finisterre, and he was Korean, and he had started in Saint Jean de Port, and he told me, I said, well, tell me a little bit about what were some of the struggles you had? And he said, Steve, I've never been out of Korea before. I've never been on an airplane before. And I flew to Paris, and then I took a train and a bus, and I got to where I was going, and I didn't know how to. I speak a little bit of English, but I don't speak any Spanish, and I don't speak any French. And I had to find my first albergue, and then I had to find the trail. And he went over the Pyrenees, and he was coming in on his first or second day on the Camino. And he said, I just was lonely. I couldn't speak to anybody, and I thought I was lost all the time. And he said, I was feeling really, really sorry for myself. He said, then I passed another man who was 72 years old, and he was a Korean man. And they started talking, and he said, the older man said, I've never been out of Korea before. I've never been on an airplane before. And he said, this is my first time I've ever been anywhere outside of Korea, out of South Korea. And he said, I don't speak any French or any Spanish, and I'm 72 years old. And the younger man that I met, he said, it was at that point I realized that there's a lot of people that have it a lot worse than I do. He said, I need to focus on the good, not the bad. And there's a lot of people making good on far less than I have, and they're doing just fine. And so he said, from then on, he just kept walking, and everything was great. He had to have, that was a life lesson that he learned on the trail from just a conversation with somebody he met. He did that. The older man didn't speak French, English, only Korean, and the young guy, at least he spoke English, right?
Actually, you made me thought that I have a story that it not happened to me. 2 years ago, in 2019, while walking the Primitivo, I met like this German guy, and I guess you walked in 2018, right? The Primitivo.
The Primitivo in 2019.
2019, but what time, more or less?
June.
So I walked in August, in the first week of August, and there was like, I guess you in June you had no problems with albergues. There were like few people. So, but in August we had a lot of problems with albergues. There were a lot of people, and some of them couldn't find a place to stay. And like before, I guess in a town called Borges. I don't know if you stayed in Borges or Campiello. Where did you stay?
The second one.
The second one in Campiello?
Yeah.
So I stayed in the first one in Borges, and the guy, this German guy, he speaks English, but didn't speak any difficult, just English. And so I was in a private hall of a cafe, and this cafe, restaurant, whatever. It was both things, and there's a place where the people who can stay in the public albergue can go to pick up the key and to eat whatever they want. So this German guy was one of the last people was arriving, and everything was full. So the public albergue, there were people sleeping on the floor, people sleeping on the laundry room, everywhere. And the other one where I was up, it was full too. So this guy who doesn't speak was trying to explain to the lady, please let me just take a shower. I just want to take a shower, and then I can go and sleep outside, whatever I want, whatever I can. But the lady doesn't understand, wasn't understanding what he said, and I intervened to try to help, and the guy just told me, please let the lady know I just want to take a shower, even if it's a cold shower, no problem. I take a shower, then I can go and I can go sleep under a chapel, a church, a church.
Yeah.
So the guy the German guy went to have the shower, and then went and slept under the church. You know, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
It's
I didn't know if I was able to do it. Okay, it was summer. It was not that cold, but it was in summer. Even in that time, we picked up some like 14 degrees. It was not that hot. It was very variable variable weather, and if it happened with me, I don't know if I was able to sleep under inside. You had to woke up at 4 a.m. to start walking to get more earlier possible to get a place in a public albergue. In one of the days, I came to know that this guy has slept in the house of the priest because there wasn't any place to sleep. No, yeah. Just in following your idea, just to in the Camino, we are able to do things that in other places we cannot.
The Camino provides. One way or another, you always figure it out. It always works out.
So, if you had a choice to go back in time to a moment on the Camino, what will be?
I think it was I can't remember what it's called. I was on the Primitivo going over. You go over that one really big pass.
Hospitaleros.
Yes, hospitaleros. There's a refugio. There's a refugio up there.
Yeah.
I was with my daughter, and it was pouring rain, and it was wind was blowing really hard, and we came over the top, and we stopped in that refugio up there on the very top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And went inside, and so it was really funny. We met this man on the way up, and he was hiking with another lady, and it turns out he was originally from the same town where my wife is from.
Oh.
And they didn't know each other. I mean, I shared her name, and he didn't know her, but we visited, and we hiked the rest of the way up the hill, and we get to the top, and as we're going into the refugio, he said, "Steve, would you like a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Juan, you have coffee in your mochila, in your backpack?" He says, "No." He says, "My wife is driving up in a car to bring us coffee." So we went in there, she brought us coffee. And she was the nicest lady. And she went to the same high school as my wife went to.
Oh.
But she was a few years younger, and they didn't know each other. But we visited, and she was the most wonderful lady. And it was just kind of, I hadn't really, before that day with my daughter, we hadn't really had a Camino moment yet. And I kept telling her, just wait, dear, this is going to be awesome. There's going to be something special that happens. And every day for a couple of days, I kept telling her nothing happened. And then right then, the lady who was there said, she said, "Have you ever heard of manitas de mocho?" Have you heard of manitas de mocho?
I have too.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I said, no, I don't know anything. And she went on to tell the story about manitas de mocho, about the man who walked the trail, and he handed out the little hands when he saw pilgrims that were demonstrative of the Camino spirit and how wonderful it is. And you never know, now there's other people that hand those out. And she told the whole story. And she said, "You and your daughter are just so nice." And she went out to touch my hand like this. And when she took it away, there was one in my hand. And I just got like goosebumps. And I told my daughter, I just turned to her and I said, "This is what I was talking about right here, right now." And so we just had the most wonderful visit. And it was just one of those things that you just sat there with a big giant grin on your face and happy. And then when we walked out, the wind stopped and it cleared out. And you know how when you walk down that other side, you see that big, beautiful valley, and then from there it was just, oh, and then we drank coffee up there too, and she had a liqueur that she put in it, some kind of local liqueur that she put in the coffee. So not only was it nice to get out of the weather, but we drank this coffee with some kind of liquor in it that was so good. But that was probably, if I could just put me down there, it was the most peaceful, wonderful place up on top of that mountain, because you look up where you came up and then you look down where you're going. Excuse me. And I got a manito de mucho and I was ready to go.
No, that's amazing. Actually, I have to, like, a very nice story about it. My first manita was also on the Primitivo, and the other people that gives there are people that are from a town nearby where Mucho lives, and one of that persons is one guy that I guess around this time he had like counted at least 44 communities. Cedo, where you stop, he offered me one.
Yeah.
Last year, in 2020, last year, it's always Walker saying last year. Last year, while I was walking the Winter Camino, I stopped. So the Winter Camino, it starts in Ponferrada and came down to the south of Galicia, and it emerges with a different Camino that's called the Camino San Andres, in a town called Lali. In that town, I stopped in my only albergue, because it was like in the middle of a pandemic, and the public albergues were closed. So I chose to stay in pensions, in some hostels, because there was the only option. And in Lali was the only albergue where I stayed. And I arrived there very, very early, like noon or whatever. And the owner, a guy named Emiliano, it was cleaning up the albergue. It was cleaning up, and I arrived. And I came up the stairs, I arrived there, and the first thing he saw, it's my necklace with the manito de mucho, and we start talking. How you know you have a manito de mucho? So who offered you? It was Alvaro. Oh, okay. So you met Alvaro? Yes, I met Alvaro and the other guys. And so this group of pilgrims had stayed in that same place, and I was known because of the manito de mucho.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So
really is. You know, the memory and the thing that happened. So I went with my daughter, who was 17 at the time, and it's just her and I, and she just graduated from high school, as I said, and my mom and dad came up. I live in just outside of Boise, Idaho, and my mom and dad came up for her graduation from Northern California, which is about a 10-hour drive. And so they were here at our house when we flew to Spain to go on the Camino. And in what town was it? I think it was Lugos. When we got into Lugo, we checked into a place, and we stayed. We didn't stay in an albergue there. We actually stayed in a pension. And we were there, and it was we were pretty tired. We had a long day, and all of a sudden my phone started ringing, and I said, I'm tired. I don't want to talk to anybody, you know. And then it kept ringing, and finally my daughter answered it, and my dad had passed away back in the United States. It was my wife telling me that my dad had passed away And so I said, I called my mom and I said, you know, we'll catch the first flight home that what we can do and get home as soon as we can. And she said, don't you dare come home. She said, your dad would have wanted you to finish. So my dad passed away, and so my daughter and I the next day set out. And it was actually probably the best thing that could have happened where it happened, because, you know, the rest of it from there into Santiago, you know, I had the time to process and it felt like he was behind me the whole time walking. And it was probably one of the hardest but best things that could have happened. Because if I would have been home, you know, we all would have, you know, everybody would have been calling, coming over and all this stuff. And this was like, you know, the next, I don't know how many days that is from there, 3 or 4 days more into Santiago.
I guess 4.
Yeah, 4. So those 4 days, it was just, you know, my daughter and I, we talked about Grandpa, and we talked about stories and all this stuff. And my dad was he was a bit of a character and an old cowboy, and my dad rode his horse everywhere. So we both like imagine, you know, he was following us on his horse, and it was awesome. It was really, really great. But it was like one of those things that, you know, another reason for me that the Camino's so special is I have that part of it as well, you know. So
I have like this idea for you. I don't know, following that what you told me. Monday I was talking to a Brazilian girl, and she told me that she used to work at the pilgrim's office for like 1 month, and we are talking about the movie, the way, you know, and one of the main scenes of the movie, it's while when Martin Sheen came up to the pilgrim's office, he first says his name, but then changes for his son's name. And I was asking if that is possible or not, and she told me it's not possible. That was just made for the movie, but and it's an idea for you if you want. You can do it. You can ask on your Compostela to put in memory of. Do you know?
Yeah, that's a good idea. My next one.
You can do it. You can just ask, I want to do in memory of. Yeah. And they put it there.
Yeah.
So,
have you seen? There's a great book, and they made a movie and a book. It's called "I'll Push You." Have you seen that?
I didn't see the movie, but I heard about it.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I read the book, and then those two guys, you know, the story is the two best friends from childhood, that one of them has developed a disease that he's in a wheelchair and he can't move. And his friend agreed to push him, and they did the whole French way, and the one friend pushing the other one in the wheelchair, and they made a movie. They filmed it along the way, and their deal was the photographers couldn't help. They could just be taking photographs, but those guys live in the same town where I live here in Idaho. I had dinner with them a lot in December. Oh. Yeah, two great, wonderful people, and their wives are wonderful, and they're just the nicest people. Patrick and Justin, they live we didn't meet each other till afterwards, but those guys right now are, because of the pandemic, they're not doing it. But what they have a group they put together is they take 2 or 3 times a year, they take handicapped people that are either in wheelchairs or blind or need help, and they take them to the Camino and walk it with them as a group, and they have it all planned out. And so it's really cool. They don't do the whole thing. I think they do from Saria to Neferi, because, you know, like 100 kilometers, just because of that. And I think the next time I go back, I think I want to do the Portuguese and then go back, because they ask people to go and help them, people that can go and help. So I think I might go and help them, you know, help people do that, and blind people in wheelchairs, all the whole thing. And it's pretty amazing.
Handicapped people I didn't met, but actually I met like blind people, and it's amazing. how can they do it? Then it's amazing. It's just amazing.
Put your mind to it, you can do anything, right?
Yeah, definitely. Following your story of your father.
Yep.
How it was like finally arriving in Santiago that time.
It was good on 3 different levels. One is just because it's so magical and beautiful and it's so powerful of a place, seeing everybody come in. But number 2 was because I was with my daughter and experiencing that with her. And we all came in, there was about 8 of us that had met on the trail that were friends, and we all came in within about a half hour of each other, an hour of each other. We all came in and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience to come in together. But then with my dad, part of it as well, you know, as you know, is when you come in and I think we probably spent 2 hours just sitting there doing nothing other than just smiling and reveling in the incredible feeling. And you can't explain that feeling when you come into there, and everybody experiences a little bit different.
Yeah.
But you want to laugh and cry and smile all at the same time. And it's just so such an emotional, powerful thing, right?
I have like this it's like a made phrases, but it's something like you can't explain the Camino to anyone. You have to feel it.
Yep.
You can try it, but the only thing you can say is just say go and feel it, because you can't. It's your own feeling, and it's different for everyone. But you can try to show a different what you can see there, what you can do, but the feeling of it, it's special and it's our own.
You know, before we started, we both shared that we're both Catholic, and I think of the Camino as an 800-kilometer confessional box. And you know, after you go to confession, how you come out and you feel better. When you get to Santiago, that's like the end of the confessional box. There's 800 kilometers of that, and you get there, and it's just like the weight's all lifted, right?
Right, definitely. But it's like you said, it's a mixed feeling. It's the feeling that okay, you are happy, right? But it's also a little bit sad because you had finished. You had to go back home, so it's something like a.
And you're leaving your new friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's go to the moment where you go back home. So what was for you? Let me rephrase it. What changed in your life after walking the Camino?
Say that one more time.
What changed in your life after walking the Camino?
Patience. I have a great deal more patience. The Camino shows you tolerance. It gives you purpose. And I think I've learned again not to complain or feel sorry for myself. There's others getting by on far less. You know, I think the Camino is, you know, I don't think the Camino is character building so much as it's character revealing. And I think we all come out better for it. You know, you have however long of a Camino you do, whether it's 5 days or 5 weeks, you are immersed in thought about what you're doing and thought about how you can do better. And I think because of that, that's how I've changed. I'm much more patient. I'm not in as much of a hurry as I was before, because I think patience is you have to have patience, because you know if you go too fast, you get tired or get blisters. But you have to keep moving or you won't get to where you need to go. So there's somewhere in the middle that it teaches you to just keep moving step by step, and eventually you'll get there wherever it is that you're going. And I think that's what I've learned mostly about myself is just to don't be in a hurry to get anywhere. stop and look around and enjoy where it is that you are, and don't forget to enjoy the beauty that's along the way. It's made me a walker here at home. I don't know about you, but I walk every day now. I walk every day. I got to get outside. I got to go. Sometimes it's in the dark. Sometimes it's early in the morning, but I got to walk.
I doesn't walk every day, but at least 2 times a week because of my work. I work in the night shift, so it's kind of hard, and it's a very movable work. So I have to walk while I'm walking. While I'm working, I'm walking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but today I admit it, like 8 miles, walked 8 miles, so at least one way.
Mm-hmm.
So and every Sunday.
Well, I think for all the things we just talked about it, but I think for me, it's I don't know how. It's a hard thing to answer because I think it's changing all the time. Why it's special for me? It's special because it's a place I can be by myself. It's a place I can be with others. It's a place I can meet new friends. It's a place I can disconnect from my old friends. It's all of those things at the same time. It's a place where, it's kind of funny. People always ask me, "Did you get lost?" And I first thing I want to think to myself is, well, I got lost plenty. Not too much on the physical path, but in my thoughts.
Yeah.
I was lost in thought all the time. And when you're thinking like that too, is all of a sudden I think, holy smokes, I just walked 10 miles and I don't even remember really it being tiresome at all, because I was thinking the whole time about, how I could go home and be a better person, like Peter. How can I, be a better father? How can I be a better husband? How can I be better at my job? How can I be a better person to those in my community? And I think today, the way we're so fast paced, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So for me, that's really kind of why it's almost a way, it's almost like a place to, what's the word? To really just jump into your own thoughts and whether it be praying or whether it be just being thoughtful.
Good. So, like before, we were talking, like, I don't know, maybe there is, but I don't know. Like, the Camino is something that it's addictive. It's something that you easily get addicted to it, and maybe there is, but I don't know anyone that had just walked one time. And what I not just walking more Caminos, what I just see from nowadays, it's that the people or the pilgrims, they need to get involved more with the Camino. Like it's my case. Like you said to me, you want to help your friends from the I'll Push You movie to walk handicapped people to walk the Camino. So why you feel that we pilgrims have that I don't know the word, but that need to be more involved with the Camino, even just not walking in a different way?
I think people may come to the Camino not of the same mindset, but I think they usually leave of the same mindset. They come thinking one way and they leave thinking a different way. And I think people then want to go back and share the sense of humanity, the giving, the willing to help, the, you know, people do anything for you. And it's the perfect environment to feed that humanity that in the outside, in our everyday lives, too often we don't have the opportunity to really demonstrate our humanity. And it's a way where we're all walking in the same direction. We all have the same goal to get to the same place. You wake up in the morning, you pack, maybe get a cup of coffee, something you like to eat. You walk, you eat a snack, you find a place to stay, you wash your clothes, you get something to eat, you go to bed, and you repeat. It's not really that difficult.
No,
that's
no,
really that's really all it is. And,
yes, it is.
And you don't need fancy electronics. You don't need fancy anything. I've seen people walking it in sandals. I've seen people walking it in expensive hiking boots. And I'll tell you, the expensive hiking boots don't get any less blisters than the ones in the sandals. Definitely. It's all the same. We're all the same. And you really learn that you don't need all this stuff. You really actually do better with less stuff when you're on the Camino. You really only need bare minimums, and if you do need something else, you can always get it. But it really lets you realize, and that's one of the things I've come away with, is I have too much stuff. I really do, and I don't need it. And I've kind of told myself I'm going to start trying to stop getting new stuff that I don't need, because we get stuff. That's just the way we, and we think that we need it. And if anything, the Camino teaches us that we can succeed on far less and be happy doing it. And nowadays, everybody walks around like this. Is Camino, you get to talk to people, and you get to that interaction that we don't always have. Yeah, we talk to people for work on the phone, or we, but not like we want to as human beings. We want to have that humanity, that connection, that thing that makes us all the same, really. But we lost it, and the Camino is a great way to get it back, or at least, even if it's for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long you're there, that time, whatever time you have, it's magical.
It is definitely. So we are almost finishing, but one last question. What can you tell to someone who never walked the Camino?
Well, my wife will tell you I'm a little bit fanatical when someone asks me about it, because I get all excited and I start going like this, telling them all about it. But if somebody that didn't know anything about it asked me,
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Well, I think anyone that's been there, that's the way that we are, right? We become fanatical almost. But
I am.
I think somebody that's never heard of it, I first would encourage them to do it. But most importantly, I would encourage them to consider it from the standpoint of an awakening. It really is an awakening. And my first impression of it before I actually did it was, it's going to be a nice hike, right?
Right.
It's going to be a nice hike. It's not a hike.
It's much more than that.
Much more than that. It is a nice hike with great wine and great food.
Definitely.
That part is pretty awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the menu de dia and the great wine and the great, but it's more of an adventure that is hard to replicate these days. There's really nothing out there that replicates that.
Let's just make something fun. You here in Portugal have better wine and better food. Just saying. Just saying.
That's funny.
No.
I do. I have a really quick story to go with that. So my wife is in southern Spain.
Yeah.
And I lived there for about a year, and they're not that far from Portugal.
It is.
An hour to Sevilla, and then another hour from Sevilla over to Portugal. And I kept saying to my wife, to be at that time, we were just boyfriend, girlfriend. I'd say, let's go to Portugal. Let's go to Portugal. And she said, you don't want to go to Portugal. It's too far, and the food's not very good, and the wine's not as good as the Spanish wine. And she said, why would you want to go to Portugal? And then I would ask her mom, hey, let's go to Portugal. Oh, you don't want to go to Portugal. You don't speak Portuguese. And why would you want to go to Portugal? And so one morning, I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I drove to Portugal, and I got a cup of coffee and I drove back. And I come in the morning, and I don't know, at that point it's like, I don't know, maybe 9:30 in the morning in Spain. And I walk in the morning, and they said, "Where did you go so early?" I said, "I went to Portugal." And their mom said, she said, "You crazy American, you went all the way to Portugal." She said, "You didn't have a map. How did you know how to go there?" And I said, "I just drove that way." No, I just kept driving that way. And she said, "Well, you don't speak Portuguese." And I said, I don't really speak Spanish all that well either. I'm doing just fine." And she said, "Well, how did you order coffee?" And I said, "Un café." And she said, "Well, that food, how did you eat that Portuguese food? It's nothing like Spanish food." And I said, "I only had a cup of coffee, but next time I'll have some Portuguese food." But it's funny how the Portuguese is way better than the Spanish. The Spanish, it's kind of funny how they, just right over the border, very similar, right?
Yes, in food it's almost the same. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I know. But it's funny what you said is exactly what, like,
in wine, I guess we are a little bit better. But in food, it's almost the same.
Yeah.
We have better codfish.
You better what?
Codfish, bacalhau.
Oh, yeah, you're bacalhau. You guys, you're famous for your bacalhau.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, in Braga, it's 50 kilometers from Porto, but in the north of it. So, Steve, thank you so much for this. We had finished. To have you here talking with me about the Camino. It's so amazing. Thank you so much for it.
Oh, you bet. And I will come by to see you on my next Portuguese Camino.
I'm expecting that, nothing more.
No, good, good. Well, Happy New Year's to you and everybody listening, and buen Camino.
Y hasta aquí los pasos del camino. Nos vemos en el siguiente episodio.